So now that we know that our target is definitely vulnerable, the next goal is to actually start selecting data from useful tables. So hopefully from a user's table that contains usernames and passwords. So the next thing we do is to go ahead and try to exploit it using the same SQL queries that we tried in the previous lecture. And you will notice that they will not work because, like I said, this is a blind SQL injection example. Therefore, you will not see the results on screen. So the way we're going to do this, we know so far that when we execute a true statement, we see the welcome back, and we execute a false statement, we don't see the welcome back. So we can use this to actually check if a specific table exists on the page. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, do we have a table that is called X, for example? And then when we found the X table, we're going to ask the question, do we have a column called Y in the X table? And then once we do that, we're going to say, do we have a value in table X? And this way, for example, we can ask, do we have a table called users? If we get welcome back, that will mean that we have a table called users. And then we're going to ask, does the table users contain a user called administrator? If we get welcome back, that means we do. Then we're going to check if the administrator password starts with an A. If we get a welcome back, then we try the next character and next character and next character, and we can guess the whole password this way. So basically, we're not going to be able to see the result on the screen. We're simply going to be asking the database engine questions, a true or false question, and based on the answer that we get, whether we see welcome back, we will know that the answer is true. If we don't get a welcome back, then we know that the answer is false, and then we can ask it a different question. That is a huge limitation, but you will see that we can still manage to get the username and the password of a user or of the admin using this vulnerability with the help of Burp Suite. We're actually going to be using the repeater and the intruder to help with this. So you're going to get other examples. We covered them previously when we spoke about XSS vulnerabilities, but now you're going to see how useful they are because, as I mentioned previously, you can actually use them in so many other scenarios. So what we're going to do to ask, do we have a table called X? We're simply going to say, similar to what we did in here. So we said, and 2 is equal to 2. So I'm actually going to copy this and we're going to paste it here. And obviously all of that is fine, the comment and the comma. And we're just going to be adding our code in here. And in here, we're going to say, I want to select A from users limit 1, and we're going to say if the result is equal to A, and I'm going to explain what this means. So basically what we're doing in here, we have a statement that asks a question, and like I said, the main thing we want to do is get a true or false answer from the web application, and we know the answer is true if we see welcome back, and we know the answer is false if we don't see the welcome back. And the question we're asking is, do we have a table that is called users? And the way we're doing this using a select statement, and we're selecting anything from the users, and we're limiting the result to one record. And whatever you put in here, I want to make sure that you add it after the equal sign, because this is our check. So if we have a table that is called users in SQL, this statement right here will evaluate to A, because that's what we're selecting. And that's why I said whatever you select in here, you need to have it in here. And then we have, is A is equal to A? A is equal to A. It is true, and therefore we should see a welcome back if we have a table called users. So this will be the format that we're going to use to ask questions to the database engine. So let's go ahead and put this in practice. I already have this written in here, and I forgot to say and in here. So we need to say and. So let's copy it and let's just refresh the page, and we have it in here. Add it to the end, make sure it's added correctly. I think it is. And we're gonna forward the result. And as you can see, we have the welcome back in here, which means that we have a table that is called users. Now let me show you a false example. So let me just do this again. We're going to load the page again, and we're going to use the same exploit at the end. And this time, instead of saying the table name is users, let's just add something that we know should be false, like la 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 la, hit enter, forward it, and now you can see that the welcome back disappeared, meaning that there is no table that is called la 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 la, but we have a table that is called users. So the next thing we want to do is ask, do we have a column called Y in the users table? So we're saying the same thing, but this time we're going to say where username is equal to administrator. So this time we're actually checking for two things. We're checking if we have a column called username and if we have a username that is called administrator, because all of this will only evaluate to A if all of this is true. So if we have a table called users, which we know, and if we have a column called username, and if that column contains a username that is equal to administrator, if all of this is true, the result between the two brackets will only be A, and we know that A is equal to A, therefore that evaluates to true, and therefore we should see welcome back on screen if all of this is correct. So we're going to copy this, we're going to go back to our page, we're going to reload it, edit the cookie, paste it, forward, and perfect. We have the welcome back appearing again, which means that we have a column called username and we have a username that is called administrator in this column. So far so good. Now the next thing we need to do is guess the password or get the password. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to try to determine the length of the password. So this is how we're going to do it. Let's copy this because we're going to build up on it. So we're selecting A from users where the username is administrator and the length of the password is greater than 1. So again, all of this between the two brackets will evaluate to this value if all of this statement is true. So we know that we have a table called users, and we know we have a column called username, and we know that this column contains a username called administrator, and the check that we added now is if the length of the password is greater than 1. Now this should evaluate to true, and we should see the welcome back because any password should be at least of length 1. So let's try this first. So again, we're just going to paste it at the end of this, forward, and we have the welcome back, which means that the password is greater than 1. And then we can use this to determine the length of the password because we can try to see if the length of the password is greater than 10 characters. So again, we copy this, we run it again, we edit the cookie, forward, and again, we still have the welcome back. So that means the password is longer than 10 characters. Now let's try again with 20. So again, run it, edit the cookie. Now instead of 10, let's try 20 and forward. And now you see the welcome back disappeared. So we know the password length is between 10 and 20 characters. So let's forward this again and run it again. We have to choose a value now between 10 and 20. And I'm actually just going to choose 19 because I know the length of the password is 20. So if we choose 19 and forward, you'll see we have the welcome back. So the password length is bigger than 19, but smaller than 20. So we can actually double check it by simply using the same statement. And this time, instead of saying bigger, we can just say equal. So we're going to say, is the length of the password is equal to 20? And if we hit that, we should see the welcome back, meaning the length of the password is 20 characters. So now we know the password length is 20. So far we know that the username is administrator and we have a password of length 20. The only thing we need to do is get the password. So this is going to be a bit trickier because we can't really say, is the password 123? Is the password 1234? Now you could do that, but then that will take a lot of time. You can use a word list and do that, but it'll take you so much time. We're still going to brute force it, but we're going to be a little bit smarter about it.